Everyone, and welcome to my cling film technique workshop. In this workshop I'm going to show you how to create the ever popular cling film technique along with the incorporation with Milkbath. I really hope you enjoy this workshop, so let's get started. So in this workshop I'm going to show you how to create the cling film technique, which is really popular at the moment, along with a little bit of chrome and also Milkbath. So this is a slightly different technique to the cling film with a normal gel polish, because we are going to create an encapsulated chrome look. So the first thing I've done is I've taken my tip and I have given it a base coat of 1 coat of gel white polish. Okay, so obviously if we were doing this on a client, we will have done our prep work and then we will have done our base coats, and then I have just put 1 coat of gel polish on there in white. So this is just to give us a little bit of a base to work on, so that we're not going straight in with the cling film, so you're not going to see your client's natural nail bed come up through this colour. Okay, so we've done our white, that's gone in for a full cure, and now what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you with the gel polish first of all, and then I am going to show you with a builder gel as well. So I'm going to put another layer of our white on here. Now if we hadn't done that first coat of white, when we go to do our cling film technique, it would show our client's natural nail bed and free edge. So it's really important that you put that first layer of white down. Now before this goes in the lamp for a cure, and I've been quite liberal with my gel polish, I'm going to get a piece of cling film. This is just normal everyday kitchen cling film, and I'm gonna scrunch it up a little bit, okay, because we don't want to go on flat, and then I'm going to put that on top of the nails. So this is much easier if you're working on a client, because obviously your tip isn't moving underneath, and I'm scrunching it up to create a bit of texture. So I'm just going to put that over the nail, and now I'm going to put this in for a flash cure. I'm not going to put it in for a full cure because I want to be able to take the cling film off with ease. So I'm literally just going to put that in the lamp for a quick 10-second cure, or you could do a 15-second flash cure. It's entirely up to you. Now when this comes out from the lamp after its 10-second flash cure, I'm going to remove the cling film, and that will have cured the gel polish enough to be able to give us a texture, but it hasn't set it enough for us not to be able to remove the cling film. So I'm just going to go in and peel away, and like I say, this is easier on a real client because obviously the tip isn't moving. I'm just going to have to push that down a little bit more. The tip isn't moving off of the stand. And I'm just going to peel that off and remove our cling film. So you have to be quite harsh with it, but you need to make sure that you remove all of that cling film off of the nail. So getting into all of those nooks and crannies and making sure that there are no little bits left on there. Just a tiny little bit left there, and also here. And now all of that cling film has been removed. Just got a little bit just there. So you need to be really firm with this and make sure that you get rid of all of that cling film. Okay, so we've now got a really rough surface, which is what we want, because that's what's going to create the depth to this design. Okay, so you can see there it's all really rough, and now I'm going to pop that in for the rest of the cure. So it's a normal gel polish, So it just needs a 20-second cure. Now what I'm going to do is go in with a chrome pigment powder, okay? So this is a gold. It's more of a burnt gold or copper, if you like. It's not the goldy gold. I've got a goldy gold here so you can see the difference. But it's entirely up to you which chrome pigment powder that you use. And I'm going to use a foam, not a sponge, I'm going to use a foam eyeshadow applicator that normally, to be fair, comes with chromes when you order them. And I'm going to pop that on to the inhibition layer of this nail. So obviously it's quite lumpy bumpy, so you need to make sure that you get in to all of those nooks and crannies. So it does take a little bit of work with your applicator to make sure that it's in there. Again, making sure that we've covered all of our bases. And now I'm going to burnish that chrome and make it nice and shiny. Use a clean part of my tip just to get rid of any excess, because you want this shiny, you don't want it sparkly, you want that chrome effect. Alright, I'm just going to pop the lid on top of my chrome because I don't want that to go everywhere. And I'm just going to pop, just to seal this in, a little bit of base coat. So we don't want to fill in all the gaps as such. We want to just seal in our chrome. So I'm just going to get my base coat. So I'm using my base coat that I use for chromes and glitters so that we don't contaminate our normal base coat. And I'm just going to seal that in and cap that free edge. But I don't want to fill in all these nooks and crannies. I want this now to stay rough at the moment. Okay. So now I'm going to pop that in for a full cure, which for this base coat is 30 seconds. Now while that's in the lamp, I'm just going to get rid of this little bit of overflow, and I'm going to mix a Milkbath. So I've got my white normal gel polish and I'm going to mix that with some clear base, and this is going to make my whites for the Milkbath. So I'm just going to pop that next to one another, and then using my silicone tool I'm going to mix these two colours together, or two products, because one is clear, and it's going to give me that jelly-like glass milky white. It's not going to be a white, which is what we want. And if it's still a little bit too opaque, I'm going to add in a little bit more of my base. And if you've got a palette that has a lid on it, you can mix this and then put your lid on it, and then you've got this colour for clients all ready prior to them coming in to their appointment. So using my silicone tool, I'm just scooching that product back up on itself. I'm not using my brush because we don't want our brush to soak up all that product. Now for this I am going to use my gel brush, okay? So this is just a standard gel brush that I use for my gels that come out of pots rather than out of bottles. I'm going to take my nail out of the lamp, and you can see it's still really, really rough, which is what we want because that's what's going to create the depth. Now I'm going to go into my white that I've just mixed, and I'm going to Milkbath this entire nail. So the areas that we have got that are really lumpy bumpy are going to collect more polish, and it's going to be thicker in some areas than others, which is what we want. Okay, but I'm doing a nice even coat so that we get a nice even cure. Okay, so we have Milkbath that now. I'm just making sure that we have covered all of those nooks and crannies. And then we've got a nice even coat on there. Okay, so that again is going to go in for a full cure. I'm just going to clean off that brush. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go in with our nail file. So I'm just going to move this out of the way so that we don't get any dust in there while we're filing. And then I'm going to go in on this nail with a 100 grit file, but before I do that, I'm going to wipe over. And it's really important to use a lint-free pad on this, because you can see it's pulling up, you can see it's pulling off the pad. So if we were to use a cotton pad, it would be fluff city, and we don't want that. So I'm going to go in with my 100/180 grit file. So I'm using the softer side, so I'm using the 180, and I'm just going to go over and get rid of the majority of those lumps and bumps. So by doing this, we're revealing that chrome, but we're also revealing a veined effect from that cling film technique. And it almost makes it look like a precious stone. So just going over, and it looks like I'm being quite rough, but I'm actually being quite gentle with this. I'm going over and just smoothing out that surface. If there's any areas like on the free edge or down that side wall that needs smoothing out, then make sure you do that at this stage. Obviously, working on a tip, we go that little bit lower. If this was on a client's finger, then their side walls would be here, so we wouldn't have to do that area. So again, just going over and getting it as smooth as we possibly can. And then I'm going to dust this off. And you need to trust the process at this point because it looks really messy. And then I'm going to go over with my lint-free wipe just to make sure that there's no dust residue left on there. And then I'm going to go in with my top coat. So this is nice and fairly smooth. So I'm going to go in with my top coat rather than my base coat. And I'm going to give this nail a really nice even coat of top. Again, if this was on a client, we would be steering well clear of their cuticles and their side walls, and also capping that free edge. Okay, so this is now going to go in the lamp for a full cure. And then when it comes out, I'm just going to check and see how smooth it is. And then if it's not quite smooth enough, I'm going to go in with another layer of top coat. Okay. Now you could buff over this if it's not quite as smooth as you want, but a second layer of top coat is going to help to smooth that nail out and make it that glass-like finish that we want on our client's gel nails. So that has now fully cured. Now I've got a little bit of a lump there, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back in with my file and I'm just going to smooth that out slightly. So any areas that need further smoothing, you can do that. So even though it is quite a few layers of polish, because we're filing over them, you are reducing that thickness in the nail each time that you file it. So it's almost like if you're an acrylic tech and you do encapsulation, it's almost like that process, but with a gel polish. So you can create that encapsulated look with gel rather than acrylic. So this is great for clients that have natural nails. And I'm just going to buff over with my buffer just to smooth that out further and get rid of any scratch marks. We don't want any scratch lines in there on this final coat. And then again, I'm going to dust off and wipe off. Okay, and then I'm going to go in with my final coat of no wipe top coat. And this doesn't work with matte because you need that chrome to pop up through that Milkbath. Okay, and that's going to go in for a full cure. So while that nail's in for a full cure, I'm going to move on to our next nail, and I'm going to use actually a builder gel to do this. So again, I've prepped the nail. If you were doing this on a client, you will have done your base, your prep, or sorry, your prep, your base, and then that first layer of white. And obviously if you were extending this out on a client's nail, then you will have done that extension either on your tip or on your form. So that first nail has now fully cured, and I'll just wait for this to focus so you can see the depth. If I just move that one out of the way for a second, you can see the depth that we've created in there, and also, there you go, you can see it a little bit better now, and also that vein-like appearance that we've created, and that chrome is sparkling through. I absolutely love this technique. It's really different, but also really effective. So you can see the depth that we've created, that sparkle, and this is all just with a normal gel polish with that Milkbath technique. So that's our first nail complete. So I'm now going to do it with a builder gel. So as I said, I've prepped that tip, and now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in with my white builder gel. Okay, and I'm going to use just my gel brush to go into that, and this is white straight from the pot. It's not watered down with my clear just yet to create that Milkbath. So we want to pop this on over the nail like you normally would, and we want it to be nice and even. And obviously if we were working on a client, you want to avoid the cuticle and the sidewall areas, but make sure you go down to them so that it doesn't stop short. Okay, just tidying up that free edge. And now I'm going to go in again with my cling film. So I've got my cling film just here while that's self-leveling, and I'm going to scooch it up a little bit and then pull it back out, because we don't want it too creased but we don't want it flat, so somewhere in between. And I'm going to pop that again on top of the nail, and you can use a spatula or the end of your brush. Just going to pick this up, or the end of your brush, just to move that around in that builder gel. So in exactly the same way that we did with our gel polish, but obviously we would be creating an enhancement like this. Okay, making sure you get down to that cuticle line, down to that free edge, and down to those side walls. You don't want to be stopping short. So I'm just going to pop this in for, again, a flash cure. We don't want to cure it fully because we want to be able to remove that cling film, and it makes it much easier doing a flash cure rather than a full cure to remove that cling film. So you can see it's still quite gooey, for want of a better term, but that cling film removed really nice and easily, whereas if we had fully cured that, it wouldn't have done that. So I'm just going to pop that. You can see it's super lumpy bumpy, but like I said before, that is exactly what we want. And I'm just going to pop that in the lamp now for a full cure. So while that is fully curing, I'm going to get my, I'm going to use a rose gold on this one. Okay, so it's quite a lot pinker than the gold that we've just used on the nail previously. And then when it comes out the lamp, I'm going to put this pigment powder, like we did with our gel polish, straight onto that inhibition layer of our builder gel. So that has now fully cured, and again I'm going to use my foam applicator and just dip it in and then apply it using a dabbing motion rather than a smoothing motion, and just apply it onto that nail, making sure that you get into all of those nooks and crannies. You don't want to be able to see any white. Got one just there. So make sure you really take your time to do this, because it's a really important part of the process, and don't miss any bits out. So don't forget that cuticle line or those side walls. And if you start to run out of chrome, then make sure you go back to your pot. Okay, so that is all of my indentations filled up. So I'm now going to turn this over and I'm going to burnish that chrome. So I'm going to rub it until it goes nice and smooth, and it will go shiny rather than sparkly. But this is quite difficult to do on this surface because it's not a smooth surface. So you need to make sure that you use quite a bit of pressure to get into all those nooks and crannies. Okay, so I'm just going to pop my chrome away, and you can see how much more of a layered look you can get with the builder gel rather than a gel polish. So that has now fully burnished, and what I'm going to do now is go in with a base and just, I don't want to fill in all the nooks and crannies. I don't want to make this nail smooth because we are going to do an encapsulation with our clear builder gel. But I need to seal in that chrome before we do our Milkbath. And you could do this just on one section of the nail, so you could do like half and half, or you could just do your smile line, so you could do like a reverse French and then do this just on the smile line. That would also look really effective. So I'm just going to pop that in the lamp for a full cure. And while that's in there, I am going to mix my Milkbath. So I'm just going to get rid of this chrome because I don't want any chrome in my Milkbath. And I'm going to use my white builder gel because this is where we're going to start adding our layers. Okay, so I've got my white builder gel there, and then I'm also going to use my clear builder gel, like we did with our gel polish, to create that Milkbath white. And I'm just using my spatula to get that out of the pot. And I'm also going to use my spatula because it's got a lid. This is a lot thicker than a gel polish, so a silicone tool hasn't got quite enough weight behind it to be able to mix builder gels. So I'm just using my spatula to be able to do that. Okay, so that has now fully cured. Alright, and what I'm going to do now is go in with this Milky Builder and do exactly what we did with our gel polish nail. And I'm going to fill in all of those nooks and crannies with this white that we've just mixed. And it's going to be thicker in some areas than others, but we want that. We want that Milkbath technique. So we don't have to worry about building an apex or anything like that, or the structure of the nail at this stage, because we're going to encapsulate it with our clear. So making sure that we've got a nice consistency throughout the entirety of the nail, and also capping that free edge. And if there's any areas that you feel could be a little bit milkier, then just pop a little bit more product on and then drag it out. Because like I say, we're not building any structure to the nail with this layer. Okay, so I'm going to pop that in the lamp for a full cure. I'm going to clean off my brush because the next layer we're going to do is going to be completely clear, because we almost want to encapsulate this design. So I'm just going to get rid of this, and by using our clear to encapsulate it, you're going to get real depth to the nail. So this nail, once it's cured, I'm going to file over like we did with our gel polish nail, and I'm going to use a 180 grit file just to smooth off, and then my buffer as well, just to get rid of any scratch marks. Okay, so before I do that, I want to wipe off this inhibition layer. We don't want any sticky residue to be sat in our file, especially if you're an e-filer. You don't want to be ruining your bits. That sounds rude. You don't want to be ruining your bits with a sticky layer. It's not attractive. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is come down and file what would be our side walls. Obviously, they wouldn't be coming down this far if we were doing it on a client. And I'm just going to refine that cuticle line. Again, we wouldn't be doing that if we were doing it on a client, because we will have worked up to the cuticle line. And I'm just going to get rid and refine that shape on the free edge. Okay, and then I'm going to start with my filing routine. So hopefully you guys will have watched my filing routine. It's the same routine that I use for gel and for acrylics. And I go down the side. I'm just going to take this off and redo it, because Blue Tack really doesn't like gel residue wipe off solution. Okay, so let's pop that nail back on. And then once I've gone down that first side, if you're a lefty, you'll probably find it easier to do this side first. And then I'm just scooching over my cuticle line and then coming down the other side. And then across that free edge, making sure it's nice and refined and we've got that shape in there. And you will see areas of white start to pop out. That's what you want. You want that depth to start to be created. And then I'm just going to work up and down the nail just to refine that surface. And I'm just going to look down the barrel of the nail and make sure that's nice and smooth. But we are going to create an encapsulation of our clear. So if you're doing this as a gel enhancement, the clear is going to be super important to be able to create your structure and your strength to this nail. Now I'm not going to worry too much about doing that on here because it's a tip, and we don't have to worry too much about that. But obviously if you're working on a client, then you will need to put that structure into the nail, otherwise it will just fail, it won't be strong enough. So I'm just going to pop this back on the stand. And before I go in with that clear, I am just going to go over with my buffer because I don't want any scratch marks. So when we put our clear on, it's going to magnify anything that we've done on the nails. So that also includes any scratches left behind by your file which you don't want. So I'm just going over with my buffer, remembering to do that free edge as well. Okay, so you can see how by filing, those white particles underneath that's been created by our cling film technique have popped out. So that's what creates the depth and our veins in this design. So if there's any areas that have got scratches on, just make sure you go over them and remove them. I'm just going to dust this off, and then we will go in with our clear builder. Now, like I've just said, if we were doing this on a client, we would be making sure that we were putting in that apex and making sure that we were creating that structure to the nail. But because we're working on a tip, we don't need to worry too much about doing that. I'm just gonna even out the texture of this nail, and you're going to get an idea of the depth that is created by using this clear builder on top. So just working that out to the free edge, and this works on any length nail as well. Looks really cool on short square nails as well as really long stiletto nails. So I'm just making sure that that's nice and smooth. Some of you may have the technique of turning your client's hand upside down with the gel, just how to build that upper arch. Okay, now I'm going to pop that in the lamp for a full cure. Now when this comes out of the lamp, it will need filing just to refine that shape ever so slightly, but by no means will it need a harsh file. Some people just white block over their gel enhancements because the gel is self-leveling, so you're not going to get very many divots in that because you've already put that structure in there. So I'm just going to go over with my 180 and then my buffer. But in between that stage I am going to use a white buffing block as well. But before I do that, I am going to wipe off with the gel residue wipe off solution because we don't want to ruin our files with sticky bits. So that has now come out from a full cure. Okay, so like you would with any enhancement, I'm just going to wipe that off. Like you would with any enhancement, you're going to do your filing routine. So again, side wall, free edge, and then I'm just going to refine the structure of this nail. So with my normal filing routine, going down the side, making sure it's nice and tapered down into that side wall, and then I'm going to go over that cuticle area. Obviously if we were working on a client, you'd be super careful to not catch their skin. Down the other side wall, making sure we've got that taper. So if you look down the barrel of the nail, you've got that taper really nice into their side wall. And then across that free edge, making sure it's nice and even and not too rounded, which can be a problem with gel enhancements. You get that bulbous bit at the end if you've not quite tapered it out correctly, so you need to make sure that that's nice and tapered and consistent across that free edge. And the way to check that is to look down. If I put something dark behind it, is to look down the barrel of the nail and you've got that nice tapered free edge. And then going back to the cuticle line and marrying up these file guides from side wall to side wall. Going all the way up the nail. Right up to that free edge. And then I'm going to go over with my white block. Again, just removing those scratches. We want this to be crystal clear to get that depth and dimension. So if you've got any scratches in there whatsoever, it is going to distort that. So I'm just going over with my white block all the way over now, not forgetting that free edge. And then I'm going to go over with my buffer again to remove any of those scratches. Okay, so I'm going to pop this back on its stand. I'm going to give it a dust off, and then I'm going to give it a wipe off just to remove any of that dust. Okay, and then I'm going to go in with my top coat, just to give it that high glass-like shine. And again, if we were working on a client, you would be making sure that you're not going anywhere near their cuticle or their side walls, and that you are capping that free edge. So I'm just going to pop that in the lamp for a full cure, and then I will show you a close-up of that nail when it comes out of the lamp. So there you have it. We have got our cling film technique using normal gel polish. So this is great for clients on their natural nails. And you have got that dimension in there created by the gel and that chrome. And then we have also got our builder gel nail, where we've got a slightly more subtle Milkbath, but again you've got that white popping out with the veins of that chrome, just shining through. So I'm going to try and get a shot of the depth that we've created. Can you see there the depth? Because we've done that Milkbath and we've got the more solid white colour, and we've knocked back to that chrome slightly with our Milkbath in certain areas, and then it's shining through more in other areas. It's just an absolutely stunning technique. I love it. and the designs are always different every single time you do it, because the cling film technique makes the design different. And this is really good for also precious gems style nails, so you can do this in a colour rather than the white and make a jelly out of your colour and do the milk bath with a colour. It would be really, really pretty. So that completes this workshop. So that completes my cling film milk bath technique workshop. I really hope you guys enjoyed this workshop, and if you did, please make sure you click the like button. And if you want to see any future workshops, please make sure you click the subscribe button and the notification bell. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you all soon.